Welcome to tonight's episode of Under the Bleachers. That's William Yanish. I'm Chris Ransom. We're live on YouTube, Kick, X, Facebook, and Rumble, where you can get our college football film cuts. And if you go to YouTube, you can check out some of the prospects for the 2026 draft. But team game films on Rumble, player game films on YouTube. But I'm not here to promote that. Almost done with week 3 of that. But we're here to preview week 6 and recap what we've seen in the first 5 weeks of the season. The first third of the college football season's over. What are your impressions on the season so far? I'll give you an updated top 12. We'll talk Florida State, Miami at the end because that is the ACC's oldest rivalry. It's the ACC rivalry that's been grandfathered in. And if the ACC dissolves as a conference, that rivalry needs to remain alive. Those schools need to be a package deal.
Yeah, for sure. And this year is yet to disappoint, just like last year. With the first year of the 12-team brackets. And I mean, already coming out, Alabama's already knocked off Georgia. I mean, things are starting to be seen a little bit. Oregon's still up there, Oregon, Penn State it's still looking a bit like last year, like as for the teams at the top and such, outside of a few surprises, I mean, like I said, it's yet to disappoint, man. I love this 12-team format. It just makes for so much more, excitement and such. It's not, like 4-team playoff, like it was like, come on, man. Or, like when I was a kid watching college football and then all of a sudden, they just decide that this is a championship game out of nowhere and that's it, and it's like, really? It's like, I never really, there was not that much excitement in it, it was all money and all media and everything like that. So I definitely, I love this 12-team format so far. It just leaves so many things open,
All right. I'm going to give you my brief top 12. Number 1 is Ohio State. I think they've been the best defense in college football under Matt Patricia. They've got so many players. They've got the best defensive player in the country in Caleb Downs and the offensive player in Jeremiah Smith. Oregon's number 2. They've got Dylan Thieneman at strong safety. Mateo Ugalele is pretty good at edge rusher. Northwestern's left tackle, Caleb Tiernan, shut him down, went 7 for 7. I know not a lot of people are talking about Tiernan, but his film is really good. I know he's a true junior. He might choose to go back for his senior year at Northwestern since the program at Northwestern's really bad. Isaiah World's done a good job replacing Connerly at left tackle. Dante Moore's the favorite to win the Heisman. Like last year's Oregon team, this is a pretty complete roster. I think you could make the argument that Ohio State and Oregon have the top 2 teams, and Oregon being a little bit more complete at tackle, and both Oregon and Ohio State have great cornerback tandems. So I think Oregon defeating Penn State in overtime, they're number 2 now. The Miami Hurricanes, they dropped from 2 to 3 in the poll this week. Not just my poll, the AP poll, Miami, Florida. They are 4-0. I've got Ole Miss at number 4. What they did against LSU, they're 5-0 on the year. Will Weeks, you probably shouldn't have posted that picture with Lane Kiffin's daughter on social media. Look, if you guys want to date, that's awesome. We're happy for you. But you really gave Lane Kiffin the fire he needed to defeat LSU and start 5-0. And I'm pretty certain Brian Kelly.
Yeah, man, that's just not cool, bro. LSU, that's my team this year, man. Come on.
I think all these people, it's hilarious. All these people are moving Nussmeier, Aller, and Klubnik out of the top 100. That is just laughably bad. Like,
very.
I mean, I get it. You want to put the undefeated quarterbacks in the first round, but Dante Moore, even though he's got a high ceiling, I don't know if he's developed enough of a ceiling to where I could say he's going to be a Pro Bowl quarterback in the NFL. The same thing, Mendoza, really doing a great job avoiding turnovers, hasn't had that 300-yard statement game that I'd like to see him have. So, and then the third quarterback I've seen in the first round is Sellers. Lenora Sellers lost 2 games, but people don't seem to care because of the arm talent. Feels like Anthony Richardson all over again.
Looks like Anthony Richardson. Has anybody ever seen him in the same place?
I mean, I'm just Sellers gets injured versus Vanderbilt. He comes back against Missouri. They lose both games, and people say, "Oh, his supporting cast sucks," and they give him the benefit of the doubt. Meanwhile, people are throwing Nussmeier under the bus. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. This is why you wait until the playoff is presented, and you wait to see how the quarterbacks do in the playoff week by week before you make any verdicts on this stuff.
Anybody that questions Nussmeier being a first-round quarterback is just an absolute casual fan, dude.
I agree.
I agree
entirely, William.
He's just oozing with football IQ, you know,
and a lot of people
just being that coach's son, you know.
LSU lost 4 offensive linemen. It's not easy to recover when you're a quarterback and you lose 4 offensive linemen to the NFL draft. That's not easy to overcome.
Yeah.
And number 5 is Oklahoma. They've moved up into my top 5 behind Ole Miss. Texas A&M's number 6. Texas A&M is a pretty complete team. Even with some of the turnover they had, they have a pretty great roster. They're 3 deep at running back. Kevin Concepcion, Nick Niblack at tight end. Trey Zuns back at left tackle. Armaj Reed Adams is a first-round right guard. They've got a really good right tackle as well. Penn State's number 7 for me. They lost in overtime. I agree with the AP on this. I'm trying not to agree with the AP, but they lost to Oregon in overtime. And they still host Indiana later this year. They still travel to Columbus to play the Buckeyes. They're going to have some opportunities to rebound. I think number 7's an appropriate spot for Penn State at the moment. I've got Indiana at 8. Indiana, they've got Carter Smith at left tackle, Mikhail Kamara at pass rusher, Aiden Fisher at outside linebacker, D'Angelo Pons at corner. They've got a good safety tandem. Indiana goes to Oregon this weekend, and that is a big game. That's probably the game of the week now with Florida State losing to Virginia, but we'll get into Florida State, Miami in a little bit. Number 9 is the Texas Longhorns. Even at 3-1, they move up a spot from 10 to 9. They're 3-1. They are the preseason number 1 team. They were before losing to Ohio State. Alabama moves back up to number 10. They lost to Florida State. They laid an egg against Florida State in Tallahassee, but they won 3 in a row. Kalen DeBoer goes into Georgia to defeat the Georgia Bulldogs. You got Jam Miller at running back, Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, Isaiah Horton. A lot of weapons for Ty Simpson, Proctor, Brailsford, Roberts on the offensive line. You got LT Overton, Tim Keenan the third, Deontay Lawson, Domani Jackson, Xavier Brown, and Cam Calhoun, a very good cornerback trio. Very problematic for teams. Alabama comes in at 9. Number 10 for me. Alabama's number 10 since Texas is number 9. Number 11 for me is Texas Tech. But I think if it wasn't for so much SEC traction with these teams, I think you could legitimately make an argument for both Texas Tech and Iowa State to be in this top 12 right now. Because Florida State losing to Virginia doesn't look good.
Whoever their backup quarterback is, came in and did an excellent job after Baron Morton was hurt, you know, and it just shows. He came in and balled.
Yeah, Texas Tech is 11 in my poll. And so who's the group of 5 team? Texas Tech just has a really good interior offensive line, great weapons. The defense with Jacob Rodriguez, David Bailey's really good. 2 edge rushers. One's an outside linebacker, one's a defensive end. Lee Hunter plays on the interior, Maury and Horn. They just have a pretty complete team, and Texas Tech, I think, was my preseason pick to win the Big 12, yours as well. And rounding out, who's the group of 5 team? Well, it's Memphis. Memphis began non-conference play 4-0. They even defeated Arkansas at home 32-31. And I get it. Arkansas went from losing to Ole Miss to losing to Memphis to losing to Notre Dame 3 weeks in a row. They fired their coach, Sam Pittman, I believe. But Memphis, they won their conference opener to improve to 5-0. And Memphis has one NFL prospect, a strong safety, Kamari Wilson. They were the preseason favorite to win the Athletic American Conference, according to Phil Steele. Also, Memphis gets South Florida, Tulane, and Navy at home. Navy's got the best quarterback in that conference. So if they win all of those games and then they beat teams like Alabama, Birmingham, and East Carolina on the road, I ultimately believe they make the playoff. Right
Yeah.
now, it's looking like the winner of Memphis versus South Florida is not only going to represent the American Conference in the conference championship, but is probably going to be the favorite to make the 12-team playoff.
Yeah.
And I just can't ignore what Memphis did. They beat an SEC team in front of their home crowd. As long as they keep winning, they're the group of 5 team for me, William. It's very simple.
Agreed. Yeah, the surprise here, I see just looking at the top 25 rankings. I mean, Illinois has one loss, given that it was a 63-10 loss to what do you call it, Indiana. But still, man, I mean, them still being, down to, they got shellacked by a freaking, Fernando, or what's his name? That quarterback.
Remember back in the day when non-Power 5 teams had to win like 7 games in a row to crack the top 25 when Boise was in the Mountain West?
Yeah.
That's what you're going to have to see a group of 5 team like a Memphis do in order to earn that spot in the top 25, because it's so early in the season, and committee does not want to give a group of 5 team a top 25 spot unless they're still undefeated, and they absolutely have to. I'll look at how many undefeateds there are left in the season in each conference, and then we'll go into this. So far, there's only 3 undefeateds left in the Atlantic. Memphis is one of them. North Texas. Maybe I should message Savannah, who covers the Dallas Stars, who follows me on X. North Texas is 5-0. Navy's 4-0. So those 3 are all still undefeated. Tulane's 4-1. Their only loss came to Ole Miss. There's 3 unbeatens in the ACC. Georgia Tech's 5-0. Louisville's 4-0. Miami, Florida's 4-0. SMU lost 2 games. SMU lost to Baylor, and they lost to TCU, but they have not played any conference games yet. They were projected to finish second in this conference, and Clemson is 0-2 in ACC play with losses to Georgia Tech and to Syracuse. So right now, I think we're on, as long as Miami can handle SMU, I think we're on a Georgia Tech-Miami collision course, because I said in the preseason that if Georgia Tech beat Clemson, they might go into the Georgia game undefeated.
Yeah.
So I think we're probably getting Miami versus we're probably getting Miami versus Georgia Tech with Clemson stumbles. Iowa State and Arizona State lead the Big 12 standings. Arizona State's 2-0 in conference play. Iowa State's 2-0. But I think it's right now, BYU's 4-0. Houston's 4-0. Texas Tech is 4-0. That is a 5-team conference between Iowa State, Arizona State, BYU, Houston, and Texas Tech. Everybody else, Kansas is 3-2 in 3-2 overall, 1-1 in conference play. The teams that are 1-1 are going to have an uphill battle. So Cincinnati's 1-0, 3-1 overall. Their only loss was to Nebraska, so they're another team that could enter this conversation. So there's like 6 teams in the Big 12 that could get to the championship right now, but only 4 unbeatens in Iowa State, Houston, BYU, and Texas Tech, with Iowa State and Texas Tech, your preseason top 2 headlining the conference. Only 4 unbeatens in the Big 10, Indiana, Oregon, Maryland, and Ohio State. Maryland has a true freshman quarterback. They're getting Zion Ely, the number 1 edge rusher in the country next year. Michigan's only loss was to Oklahoma. So Illinois' only loss was to Indiana. USC's only loss was to Illinois last week. Minnesota, they're 1-0 in conference play. They lost a opener. I don't remember who they lost to, but yep. Conference USA, there's no undefeateds in Conference USA, so we could skip that conference. No undefeateds in the independent either. Both Connecticut and Notre Dame have lost. There's no undefeateds in the MAC. So it's looking like the American Athletic Conference will be where the group of 5 comes from. Mountain West, there is 1 undefeated in the Mountain West, and it is UNLV. I think they beat Kansas on the road, and UNLV's got a running back that's draft eligible, but they have not played any conference games yet. So if UNLV is legit, they will start winning some of these conference games. Washington State's 3-2, Oregon State's 0-5. There's 5 unbeatens in the SEC: Ole Miss, Missouri, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. And again, only 3 of those made my top 12. I've got to see Missouri and Vanderbilt beat tougher teams as the season progresses. But if those teams keep winning, they might have a say in the SEC title game, William. We'll see. No undefeateds in the Sun Belt.
Wow.
So basically, it's looking like it's going to be UNLV or the American Athletic Conference winner, William. That's basically what we're looking at. I don't see anybody else from the group of 5 making the playoff right now. It's either going to be UNLV or one of the teams in the American Athletic Conference, because you've got 3 unbeatens in that conference: Navy, Memphis, and North Texas. Tulane's 4-1. Their only losses to Ole Miss, so you can't count them out either.
Yeah.
South Florida's only losses to Miami. That's another team you can't count out. So there's 5 undefeateds in the American Athletic Conference, and South Florida hasn't even started conference play. Neither is UTSA with Owen McCown. So there's 6 teams in that conference. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's going to be the American champion that gets in as the group of 5 team, unless UNLV just runs the table and there's not an undefeated team in the American Athletic Conference. But I think there will be. And if there's not a team that's undefeated, is there a team that's undefeated within the conference? That's the question, because I think right now that's what you're looking at. I mean, those are the only scenarios, William. I think we've covered everything. So what are your thoughts on that quickly? And then we'll get into Florida State, Miami, the oldest rivalry in the ACC.
Well, co-pilot here, they list South Florida, Memphis, North Texas, Navy, and Tulane as the top teams. So pretty much exactly what you said. Just got it quicker from you. So
yeah, because Memphis, Navy, North Texas, Tulane, South Florida, UTSA, there's 6 teams in that conference, the American Athletic, and 3 of them are undefeated. Tulane's got a loss, but it's to Ole Miss. South Florida's got a loss to Miami, and UTSA 2-2, but they haven't played any conference games yet. So if they run the table in the conference, and Temple has also not played a conference game yet. I don't expect Temple to do anything. I just wanted to throw their name into the ring for fun.
Oh, cool.
So yeah. So, and for everyone wondering, what do my fullback rankings look like? Well, on Saturday, we're going to do the full. We've already broke down quarterbacks, running backs on Draft Utopia. Saturday, it is the fullbacks. My number 1 fullback is Air Force fullback Dylan Carson. Alec Texa out of Navy's my number 2 running back. And then I've got Max Brett is a Michigan running back, is fullback 3. Rohan Jones, Arkansas's fullback 4. And CJ Donaldson, Ohio State fullback, is fullback 5. So that's the fullback rankings. And I'll break that down in depth on Saturday with Carson and Texa are going to be the 2 players because those are the only 2 fullbacks that I've got legit starter grades on. But Max Bredesen's Ben's younger brother, played tight end and H-back and fullback at Michigan. Rohan Jones is the Arkansas fullback, and Donaldson can play both running back and fullback. So we'll scout those guys more on Saturday. But let's get to the oldest rivalry in the ACC. And I am so happy this rivalry is back. Florida State, Miami. This rivalry usually determined the ACC champion for years.
Yeah.
And it kind of went away when Clemson was in their dominant phase. But I'm happy to say this rivalry is back. The stakes have never been higher. And I believe Florida State's the home team. It's in Tallahassee, or is it in? I'm looking it up right now. It's in Tallahassee at 7:30 on Saturday. Number 3 versus number 18 on ABC.
Yeah. And everything was looking fine with, until last year when Florida State absolutely shit the bed, but besides that, at least they're back, like you said, man.
They lost to Virginia in overtime, but it was a respectable loss. They didn't get dog walked like Clemson against Syracuse.
Yeah.
So
let's see. Yeah, that was a really Not a whole lot happening this weekend besides
And look,
Alabama,
I had a
Vanderbilt.
92 for potential on Klubnik, Aller, and Nussmeier. But even after the loss to Syracuse, I was like, I can't draft Klubnik in the first round. He's a day 2 guy now. He might fall further if Clemson keeps losing. We'll see. If he turns things around, he could stay in day 2. But if he keeps having terrible games, he's going to slip even further. But all these people saying, oh, we got to take all 3 of these guys, Aller, Nuss, Klubnik, we got to move 2 of them out of the top 100. No, you guys are being way too picky. There's still another half of college football left. Enjoy it.
Yeah, there's a lot to happen yet.
We've only finished the opening third of the season.
Yeah, it's definitely, and it's already making out like last year it was. So
exactly,
it'll definitely be exciting. Hopefully, we'll get some more of these.
Only 5 fullbacks, and I get to start the wide receiver rankings on Saturday. Saturday around midnight when I'm done with stuff. But let's talk about this game. What separates Miami from Florida State? Florida State's got some talent. Castellanos has got to manage the game, though, and he's got to make the right decisions. I know Squirrel White's going to have to step up. Former Tennessee receiver Squirrel White. He's going to have to step up and be the difference maker, I think. But the Miami Hurricanes, I feel like they have a much more complete team. I like Alex Bauman more than Elijah Arroyo at tight end. Yeah. And the Hurricanes, they've got Mark Fletcher Jr. at running back. They've got a pretty complete team, I think. Charles Brantley and OJ Frederique Jr. is a very good cornerback duo. Frederique Jr. is a guy I think he's in next year's draft, and they've got a safety as well. Oh, and they're Malachi Toney, their true freshman. I think that's the number 2 receiver on the Hurricanes. He's the younger brother of Kadarius Toney, so he's been very good. He looks like he could be wide receiver 2 behind DeCorian Moore in 2028. But I don't want to have that conversation now. But
maybe this Toney can catch.
I hope so. I hope so, William.
Because he's paid to do one thing, catch a football.
With all the NIL money he got, but he's a 3-star recruit with a chip on his shoulder. Kadarius was a 4-star recruit. And Malachi, you can tell he's much more humble, whereas Kadarius, he was dropping F-bombs, flipping the bird after Florida lost to LSU.
Yeah.
Like
that's
that guy,
not a good look.
Kadarius had an attitude problem, but the people at the Senior Bowl didn't care. Because that was their headline athlete, they didn't care. But it did end up catching up with him. The Giants ended up trading him the Chiefs, but he did win a Super Bowl ring, so he didn't come away empty-handed.
Hey, I mean, could be worse.
Yeah, Carson Beck, Francis Mauigoa is the offensive tackle. So I mean, I really like. I've watched a few Miami Hurricane games on Rumble. I've watched upload a few. I watched upload the Notre Dame one, uploaded the South Florida one. They play Florida in week 4. I'll probably get that up at some point. But Miami, I've seen the tape, and I there's enough tape to where we could start forming verdicts on some of these players. I don't know if Florida State's got a guy that can stop Ruben Bain Jr. He has been electric this year for the Miami Hurricanes at edge rusher. And I would argue, if I were putting a big board together, Caleb Downs of Ohio State would probably be number 1. Ruben Bain Jr. would probably be number 2.
Bain.
So
he's got the right name for being a pass rusher.
I really do like Jordan Tyson at Arizona State too, but with Arizona State losing to Ole Miss, most people are probably going to put him at 3. But I really do like both Tate. I really do like both Jordan Tyson and Cardell Tate. I think both those guys are good enough to go in the top 5 if you don't like any of the quarterbacks this year, or you're hesitant about drafting a quarterback.
That's generally a good thing.
Yeah, it really isn't. But yeah, Carson Beck, he's had a very good season. He's the Carson Beck, John Mateer, and Dante Moore and Mendoza are the top 4 favorites to win the Heisman. So I came.
Of course, Beck started out this way last year too, and
yeah, and then he got. But Miami's only tough game is against SMU. They play SMU on the road. They don't really play any other quality teams. Right now, the Saints.
If Brandice were here, I'd be making jokes about edibles and
draft picks. Right now, I'm looking at a 2026 mock. Sellers, the Saints. I don't know. A lot of people are just looking past Sellers losing 2 games, but that's what people did with Jamarcus Russell. The Dolphins are not going to draft the Dolphins, if they draft a quarterback to a 91 coming out of Miami, there's 3 guys 92 on Allen, Nussmeier, and Klubnik. Unless you love one of those guys and you're ready to move on from Tua and you're willing to sit that year like the Bengals did when Carson Palmer played behind John Kitna. Drafting a quarterback is stupid for Miami because unless you think there's a guy, unless you think Nussmeier or Aller is better than Tua, because I think both those QBs have slightly higher ceilings than Tua, but none of the other QBs have that type of upside. So Mendoza, he's a good game manager, but his arm's not as good as Tua's. So I really don't understand that pick. John Mateer to the Rams, that could work. John Mateer to the Rams could work for one reason, being groomed behind Stafford. Colts get Dante Moore at 26. So what happens here? Does Daniel Jones leave and then Moore and Richardson compete? Steelers get Aller at 27. So we got 4 quarterbacks in round 1, I guess. No, 5, because Mateer. So 5 in round 1, and Nussmeier moved out of round 1, but he fell to the Jets in round 2. See?
Poor guy.
That's the thing. I don't think Nussmeier is damn enough to move out of round 1 entirely. There's a lot of people panicking right now, William. Yeah.
Yeah, that's generally just because their fantasy football team sucks. But
that's the problem. People are just looking at the wins and losses, and they're not looking at the overall body of work. A lot of people get guilty of this in draft season. But what can Florida State do to beat the Miami Hurricanes? I'll mention some players on Florida State. I know they've got Castellanos, and they've got Squirrel White. Wilson, their corners, their best player. And they also have Daryl Jackson Jr. at defensive tackle, Micah Pettis at right tackle. Both the right tackles, Maui Goa for Miami and Pettis for Florida State, are going to be key. But Florida State's got Luke Pettibon at center, Shaheem Brown at strong safety. But I think the cornerbacks, Charles Brantley and Jeremiah Wilson, are both going to have to step up to the plate and stop these quarterbacks. Castellanos, kind of small, but he plays with a lot of heart, very fast, has a lot of stamina, can wear down a defense with his running ability. And we'll see what happens with Florida State. But I think Miami wins. Unless Carson Beck throws like 4 interceptions and Castellanos has like a career day, I don't see Florida State winning this game. Doesn't mean they can't win. They beat Alabama, who is and this is a big game. If Miami wants to assert themselves as like that top 5 team, this is a game they got to win. Especially with the new format where conference champions no longer are guaranteed those top 4 spots. It's best record.
Yep. That's going to make a little bit of a difference this year.
I agree. And I think the one player on Florida State, they've got one corner that can cover. They've got a strong safety that can limit the tight ends. I'm going to say Malachi Toney is the X factor here because Wilson's probably going to be locked in on Miami's number 1 receiver, CJ Daniels, a senior. That's probably who Wilson's going to be locked in on. So the other guy, whether it's Daniels or Malachi Toney, they're going to be wide open. Alex Bauman's going to be contained by Shaheem Brown. Daryl Jackson's probably going to be dealing with the Hurricanes' interior offensive line. Luke Pettibon's probably going to be going up against the interior on the Hurricanes. And the reps between Micah Pettis and Ruben Bain Jr., I think, are the key here because Micah Pettis is Florida State's best offensive lineman at right tackle. Ruben Bain Jr. is lined up against both left tackles and right tackles. So 57 on Florida State versus 4 on Miami. That would be the matchup to watch in the trenches this week. and then the decision making from Juan Castellanos and Carson Beck on the Miami Hurricanes. William, what do you want to add to that? Because this is such a great rivalry, even dating back to the 90s, whether it's the wide left, the U rising to prominence, Florida State under Bobby Bowden, the Hurricanes under Howard Schlessenberger, Jimmy Johnson.
We can just hope that this game is as good as this rivalry has been, and then we'll all be in for a treat this weekend.
Yeah, because this rivalry really hasn't been a rivalry since Larry Coker and Bobby Bowden were at Florida State and Miami. Yes, those teams have gotten other coaches, but the rivalry lacked a certain luster, a certain because those teams played each other, but they never played each other since the ACC went to a conference title. And that could legitimately happen this year. I mean, so.
Yes, sir. It'll be nice to see him in the ACC championship.
I'll look at some other games and then we'll
sure.
sign off. We'll look at some college football week 6 games to preview, and then we're going to sign off because we've covered mainly what we want to cover on Under the Bleachers. Okay, so Iowa State goes to Cincinnati. Is that a trap game? I like Iowa State, but this game, it's going to come down to the defensive tackles, William. Dominique Orange for the Cyclones and Dante Corleone for the Bearcats. I think whichever defensive tackle has the better game on Saturday, that's going to be the winning team. And
I imagine,
Cincinnati's a 1.5 point favorite too, so don't overlook the Bearcats. I went to Nippert Stadium. It was actually the first video I uploaded in the summer. So,
well, I mean, we've spoken about Rocco Beck before, and just I like them to win this game, and it should be halfway close. So I mean, they've got some, like you mentioned, some NFL caliber players on both sides of the ball, and it should definitely be a good game, though.
I agree.
Let's see.
Usually when I load games on Google, I get the default top 25. I don't just want the top 25. I want to see, we're at the point in the season where I'm starting to look at conference play and if this matters or not. But yeah, the first big game, Clemson versus North Carolina, is just shock value at this point. Clemson trying to save their season, Belichick trying to troll people and get attention. That's not. I've got a game, Air Force versus Navy. And the reason I'm bringing this game up, my number 1 and number 2 fullback are in this game, William. So my number 1 and number 2 fullback in this year's NFL draft are in this game. So Navy is favored by 11.5. They've got one of the top senior quarterbacks in the country. Give me the Navy midshipmen to beat Air Force in front of their home crowd. My upset? Well, it's not an upset. Louisville's favored by a touchdown over Virginia, and they're undefeated in ACC play. So Virginia's ranked. Louisville isn't, but Louisville's favored at home over Virginia.
That'll be another good one.
So I can't really pick Louisville as an upset. And I thought Virginia's overtime win was kind of fluky. Alabama favored by 10.5 over Vanderbilt. Yeah, they're going to
Vanderbilt beat them last year. Yeah,
they did.
Vanderbilt beat them last year.
You're right. They beat them last year in front of their home crowd. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they still have that winning formula. I know Brandice will be cheering big for Vanderbilt this weekend.
I hope Vanderbilt wins. I'd love to see Vanderbilt in the SEC title. This is their best team in years, too.
I think another one to watch there is number 9 Texas versus Florida.
That's the 3:30 game on ABC in the Swamp. Both Arch Manning and DJ Lagway are 2 of the QBs in 2027. Both need a bounce back game in the worst way possible.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how they respond to that, Get a little bit of adversity early in the season,
That would be hilarious if UCLA's only win of the season came against Penn State after they lost to Oregon. It's not going to happen. Penn State's going to clobber them, but it would be funny to see UCLA
I
beat
imagine.
them.
I don't think Deshaun Foster has that in him. Is he still in UCLA?
You know what?
Maybe.
There's an upset I really like. Give me Maryland to beat Washington at home. Washington's favored by 6.5 over Maryland. Jonah Coleman's really good, but Malachi Washington has Maryland off to a 4-0 start. Give me the Terrapins to pull the upset. I think that's my upset for this week.
I like that. I really do. See if
It's
I can
in College Park,
out
Maryland.
here.
If Maryland can get on the board early, they can dictate what happens.
Let's see. What one can I pull up?
Michigan State plays
how much
Nebraska. This is a fun game. Aiden Childs versus Dylan Raiola. I like the Huskers, though. What do you got, William?
who's the favorite in that one?
Huskers are favored by 11.5. But Michigan State's got a first-round receiver in 2027 and Nick Marsh. But, yeah, Aiden Childs, I do have a day 3 grade on Childs this year if he declares. And if he comes back, he could be a day 2 player in 2027. Because Childs is a good player.
Yes, sir.
That's on FS1 at 4 p.m.
Michigan State's notorious underachievers, too.
Hey, Michigan State defeated number 5 Michigan in college soccer on last Friday. But they haven't done, their football team hasn't done anything substantial. So, and it's like their basketball team's always been a powerhouse under Izzo. Their hockey team's getting better recruits. And sadly, their football team's becoming the laughingstock of that athletic program, which is unfortunate because they're still a respected program. But you look at what their basketball team does every year. Now their hockey team's on the brink of being a powerhouse like their basketball team. And then their soccer team just beat a number 5 Michigan Wolverines team that was undefeated. So, that sort of puts the football team in a very precarious spot. And their baseball team had the Big Ten Pitcher of the Year last year. So I've got another interesting game, William. 7 p.m., Texas Tech versus Houston. The Cougars are hosting. Give me the Cougars to cover. Texas Tech's going to win, but I think it's going to be in the single digits. If Weigman plays well and Tanner Kozoil does his thing, I think Houston can cover the spread, but Texas Tech's still going to win, but Texas Tech's favored by 10.5. I think Houston can keep Texas Tech to single digits if they get on the board early.
Yeah. How about how much is Notre Dame favored by over Boise State?
I had this pulled up a few. Is that a 7 p.m. game or is that a 3:30 game?
3:30.
Yep, I'll pull that up in a second. 20.5.
Yeah. Give me Boise State to win. I just feel I'm sitting here looking at this and like 87.5% win probability.
Arkansas got his confidence back, but I think Boise covers. I think Notre Dame only wins by like 17. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. Irish 38, Broncos 21.
For some reason, I'm just not liking the win probability of 87.5 to 12.5.
Yep.
I think I just like that as an upset special.
Florida State's only 4.5 point underdogs. Ohio State's favored by 23.5 against Minnesota on NBC. That's the only game NBC can get for Ohio State. But yeah, Memphis plays Tulsa. They're going to win that game at home and be 5-0. Mississippi State's 4-1. They were undefeated before losing to Tennessee at the end. And they play Texas A&M at Kyle Field. And I think that's it for this week.
Sounds good to me.
I'm just curious what happens because there are a lot of good games. Buffalo is my pick to win the MAC. They play Eastern Michigan. Noah, it's Knight. It's his last name starts with a K. I'm not sure if I should say it, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The Eastern Michigan player.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say his name, but yeah.
Yeah, that might.
You know who I'm talking about, William. He's a linebacker.
Yeah.
I don't want to get canceled or demonetized,
Exactly.
so I'm not going to say his name.
That's the only thing I can think of. You can't fault the guy for his name, but you can sure,
Yeah,
YouTube can sure.
but Buffalo has really good linebackers, multiple NFL prospects on their MAC team. So
Mhm.
that's, and I'm looking at the games for next week. What's the game? Missouri's plus 6.5 versus Alabama in Columbia. That is next Saturday. Ohio State travels to Illinois at big noon next Saturday. So already we're getting to conference play. We are getting to the fun part of the season. So there's multiple good noon
There's
games,
a
and then Indiana
bunch of
plays
games
Oregon
next
on
week, man.
CBS.
Yeah, there's a bunch of games next
Next
week.
week sounds a lot more exciting than this week. Red River shootout. So we got 2 3:30 games, 2 noon games. Virginia plays Georgia Tech. Yeah, so Texas Tech hosts Kansas. Michigan travels to USC. I'm looking at some of the games for next week. Arizona State travels to Utah. That's a 10:15 game on ESPN. The time for South Carolina LSU has not been announced for next week yet. Neither has the time for Florida Texas A&M, and neither has the time for Georgia Auburn. So basically, the SEC has not decided what game they're putting at noon, what game they're putting at 3:30, what game they're putting at 8.
Got to play with
And
those.
I will look briefly before we sign off. Alabama, Missouri is the noon game. I'm wondering if those are the ESPN games because I think they've already shown. Wait, did they show a 3:30 game on ABC? I don't think they did. Wake Forest plays Oregon State on the CW. That won't be as exciting as. Well, there's 2 NFL running backs in that game. If you want to start looking for day 3 running backs, there's 2 of them in that game. Oregon, Wake Forest, 3:30 on the CW. So that game's not a lost cause. CW gets some running back action.
Yes, sir.
So, yep. I'm guessing they have not announced the 3:30 game for ABC. I'm guessing they're waiting to see what happens this week. If Florida beats Texas, that'll be the 3:30 game. And if they don't, they'll put South Carolina LSU. Because I think South Carolina LSU is getting a time slot on ABC. I just don't know when it's gonna. Yeah, and they don't have a time slot for the 7:30 game on ABC either. So I would imagine South Carolina LSU is the 7:30 game on ABC, and I would also imagine that Florida Texas A&M is probably the 3:30 game, and Georgia Auburn. That's probably going to be a 7:30 game. Does ESPN have a game for 7:30? No, they do not. So one of those is going to be on regular ESPN. Oklahoma, Texas is the 3:30 game on ABC. So never mind. One of those, there's going to be a 3:30 game on ESPN, a 7:30 game on ESPN, a 7:30 game on ABC. That's all that's undecided. And the SEC is probably going to put South Carolina LSU on ABC at 7:30. Probably going to get Georgia Auburn 7:30 on ESPN, and Florida Texas A&M is probably the 3:30 game on ESPN. Hasn't been officially announced yet, but that's what I would guess based off of what we're hearing. So, and then I'm also going to the Steeler game on the 12th, and I'm going to the Cleveland Guardians Detroit Tigers game 3 tomorrow. So it should be a fun Thursday. That's William Yanish. I'm Chris Ransom. We have anything else we got to wrap up?
Guess not, man.
Besides ACC's oldest rivalry, I'll give you 5 other top 5 ACC rivalries, and then we're signing off because it's 9:54. I want to be out of here by 10. Florida State Miami is the best ACC rivalry, but if we're coming up with a list of top 5 ACC rivalries, Duke North Carolina has to be number 2. I don't care if it's football or basketball. Those 2 teams hate each other, so I'll put Duke North Carolina as the number 2 ACC rivalry. Number 3, I'm gonna go with Clemson and Syracuse. Those teams, they may not be rivals in football, but they are rivals in a lot of other sports. They're the 2 orangest teams in the conference, so we'll put that at 3. I mean, this is hard. Like Florida State, Miami, Florida State, Clemson would probably be number 3 in most years because they were both Atlantic rivals back in the day. But I'm saying that Virginia and Pittsburgh is a big rivalry. The Virginia Cavaliers and the Pitt Panthers, that's a big rivalry. I'll put that at 4. Duke NC is probably number 2. I went Clemson Louisville at 3, and then I'll go Pitt Virginia at 4. And number 5, I mean, I will go at North Carolina State versus North Carolina because that belongs somewhere. It's a big in-state rivalry. Doesn't get the traction the NC Duke gets, but it is still a big in-state rivalry.
For sure.
And that would be my top 5. And this is starting to look a lot like 1990 when Georgia Tech was undefeated, but I think they lost to Virginia, but outside of that, they were undefeated. And you had Georgia Tech and Colorado splitting the national title in 1990. Georgia Tech keeps winning. This ACC is going to look a lot like 1990. But yes, that's William Yanish. I'm Chris Ransom. Saturday, we'll have the fullback rankings. Might preview the Eastern Conference in the NBA. I'll tell you guys about my experience to Progressive Field for the Tigers Guardians Game 3 of the ALDS, and then we'll be back. NFL predictions, all the hockey content's out of the way. Basically, at this point, it's just fullback rankings, bye weeks, lots of stuff. I will brainstorm it when I get back from the trip. I don't want to overthink it right now because I got a lot to do in under 11 hours. And